My name is Thomas Ashford and I'm 59 years old. For most of my life, I thought I had a family. A big one. Loud, complicated, occasionally frustrating, but unquestionably mine. I had a wife of 32 years. 3 adult children. 7 grandchildren. 17 cousins spread across 3 states. 2 siblings. A mother who was still alive at 87. Extended family dinners where 20 people crowded around a table that could only comfortably seat 12. I had the kind of family other people envied. The kind where blood ran thick and obligation was automatic. Or at least that's what I thought. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday morning in August. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4, inoperable. The doctor, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen with kind eyes and the exhausted demeanor of someone who delivered this speech too many times, told me the median survival rate was 8 to 12 months if I did chemotherapy. 6 weeks if I didn't. She recommended aggressive treatment, though she was careful to note that aggressive treatment didn't guarantee a cure. It just bought time. How much time? I asked. If the treatment is effective, you could have a year. Maybe slightly more. Some patients get longer. Some don't make it through the side effects. And if I'm in the latter category, if I do chemo and it doesn't work, she chose her words carefully. Then you'll have spent your remaining time very sick for very little benefit. I nodded. I understood what she was saying without her saying it. I could be sick and dead, or I could be healthier and dead. I opted for the middle ground. I decided to do the chemotherapy. 3 cycles to see if it helped. If it didn't, I'd stop and spend what time remained as comfortable as possible. Dr. Chen seemed satisfied with this compromise, though I could read the sadness in her face. Sadness not for me necessarily, but for the limitation of medicine, for the fact that expertise and science and intention sometimes run into the immovable wall of mortality. That night, I called my family. I called my wife first, in person because she deserved that. To hear it from my mouth, to see my face, to have the chance to fall apart without an audience. How long? Karen asked, her voice very small. A year. Maybe. If the treatment works. She didn't cry. Not immediately. She just sat next to me on the couch. A couch we'd bought in 1998 when we first had the money to replace the hand-me-down from her parents, and took my hand. We'll figure this out, she said. I know we will. Then I called my daughter, Emma, who was 34 and living in Boston with her husband and 2 kids. I got the voicemail. She was in a meeting. I called my son, Marcus, who was 31 and working as an architect in Denver. I got voicemail. I called my youngest, Sarah, who was 28 and lived 20 minutes away from me. And she answered on the first ring with, Hey Dad, I was literally about to call you. We're thinking about buying a house and… I interrupted her. I told her I had cancer. What? She said, the word stretching out like it had too many syllables. Wait, what? Dad. No. When did you find out? Today. I wanted to tell you in person, but I also wanted you to know right away. Where are you? I'm coming over. I'm home. Karen's here. But yes, come over. Sarah arrived in 15 minutes, driving too fast, her eyes red before she even got out of the car. We held each other in the doorway. We sat in the living room, the same living room where she'd told me about her first boyfriend, where she'd cried when she didn't get accepted to her first choice college, where she'd announced her engagement 3 years ago. Have you told Emma and Marcus? She asked. I'm calling them tonight. What are you going to do? About treatment? Chemotherapy. 3 rounds. See if it helps. Okay, we can do this. People survive cancer. It happens all the time now. I didn't tell her that pancreatic cancer was different. That my odds were significantly worse than whatever statistics she was imagining from television shows and magazine articles. I let her have hope. Hope is something everyone deserves, even when it's not quite based in reality. Emma called back at 8 p.m. She was in her car heading to pick up her kids from school. When I told her, she pulled over. I could hear the traffic in the background, the sound of her breathing shifting from normal to hyper-aware. You're going to be fine, she said. Maybe. No. You are. You're the strongest person I know. If anyone can beat this, it's you. I appreciated the sentiment, even though I understood the biological fallacy underlying it. Cancer doesn't care about strength. It's not a battle you win through willpower. It's a cellular malfunction, a biological accident, nothing to do with character or determination or who you are as a person. Marcus was harder to reach. He'd been in a client meeting. When I finally got him on the phone at 9:30 p.m., I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. He was working on a big project, something about a mixed-use development downtown. He didn't have time for a crisis. Dad, I'm so sorry, but can I call you back? We're in the middle of something major here, and if I don't nail this presentation tomorrow. I could have said yes. I could have let him go, called him back when his schedule was less demanding. Instead, I said, I have cancer. Silence. Then, what? Pancreatic. Stage 4. Jesus, oh God, Dad, Can you give me a second? I heard him walk away from his meeting, the ambient noise changing as he moved outside. When he came back, his voice was different. Shaken, but shaken in a way that sounded more guilty about being at a meeting than devastated about my diagnosis. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. How long have you known? Since this morning. And you're just telling us now? Tonight? I wanted to tell you all. Right, of course. That makes sense. Okay, so what's the plan? What are the doctors saying? I told him the outline. Chemotherapy. Possible remission. Likely recurrence. Median survival of a year. But you'll do the chemo? You'll fight this? Yes, 3 cycles to start. That's good. That's positive. You know, Uncle Robert had cancer. Well, not cancer, but polyps removed, and he's been fine for years now. So these things, you can survive them. People do. He was right. People did. Just not usually with pancreatic cancer at stage 4. But I let him think his comparison was apt. I let him think my diagnosis was something I could simply overcome with enough determination and positive thinking. I want to tell everyone, I said. I want the family to know. I'd like to have you all over in a couple of weeks. Let me announce it properly, start making arrangements. Arrangements for what? Everything. I need to update my will, decide about the house, figure out healthcare proxies and end-of-life decisions. I need to be organized about this. Dad, you're not going to die. You can't talk like that. Marcus, I'm 59 years old. I have 4 months to a year left, probably. Maybe less. I need to be practical. He didn't argue, but I could hear the resistance in his silence. 2 weeks later, I held a family meeting. Everyone was invited, my immediate family, my siblings, their spouses and kids, my mother, my cousins who lived locally. 23 people in my house. The living room was packed. I ordered catering because Karen was too emotionally fragile to cook, and I didn't want anyone to have to worry about logistics while we processed this together. I stood in front of them and told them about the cancer. I told them about the diagnosis, the prognosis, the treatment plan. I told them I was likely to decline significantly over the next several months. I told them I was updating my will and my healthcare decisions. I told them I wanted to spend my remaining time with family and that I was grateful for each of them. The room was silent when I finished. Then Emma started crying. Then Karen. Then Sarah. Then everyone was responding. Shock, sympathy, promises to be there. Assurances that I was going to beat this, that miracles happened, that I had to stay positive. My brother David said he'd take time off work to help with anything I needed. My sister Patricia offered to coordinate a meal train with extended family. My mother, my 87-year-old mother, looked at me with a face that broke my heart and didn't say anything. Just came and held me. I love you so much, she said into my chest. I love you too, Mom. The family rallied. For about 2 weeks, meals appeared. My sister set up a schedule where family members took turns visiting. Emma came down from Boston. Marcus made a trip home. Sarah was there constantly. My mother called every day. My brother David came by to help me work on the will, but then life happened. Emma's kids got sick. Marcus's big project ramped up. Sarah's house purchase fell through and she was devastated. David had an emergency at work. Patricia's granddaughter had a soccer tournament. My mother's arthritis flared up. The visits became less frequent. The meals became fewer. The phone calls spread out. By 6 weeks after my announcement, the initial emergency had been absorbed back into everyone's normal lives, and my cancer became one of many ongoing concerns rather than the crisis it had felt initially. I started chemotherapy in September. The first round put me in the hospital for 4 days. The side effects were brutal. Nausea that kept me vomiting for hours. A fever that spiked to 104, mouth sores that made eating impossible, fatigue so complete that raising my arm felt like an Olympic event. Karen stayed with me for those 4 days. She held my hair while I was sick. She reminded me to drink water. She slept in an uncomfortable chair next to my hospital bed and woke up whenever my monitor alarmed. When I came home, I was different. Smaller somehow, more fragile. The cancer hadn't grown, but the treatment was already taking its toll. I expected people to want to visit then, to want to help. Instead, I got a lot of "let me know if you need anything," and "you're so brave," and people who seemed uncomfortable being around someone visibly deteriorating. Sarah visited twice a week. My mother called every evening. Emma sent boxes of expensive supplements and holistic health books. Marcus texted every few days with encouraging messages. But the consistent daily presence I might have expected, the presence I think I would have given any of them, didn't materialize. By November, I was in the second round of chemotherapy. I was also increasingly aware that the treatment wasn't working. My tumors hadn't shrunk. If anything, they'd grown. The hope I'd clung to in September had started to corrode. I think we should talk about what comes next, I told Dr. Chen during an appointment in mid-November. How are you feeling about continuing treatment? She asked carefully. I'm feeling like the treatment isn't working. And I'm feeling like I'm spending what time I have left being violently ill. You could finish the third round. To what end? If the first 2 rounds didn't work? She didn't have an answer, or at least not one she wanted to give me. Instead, she said, let me check your latest scans. Let's look at where we are. Where we were was at the end of the road. The scans showed that the chemotherapy hadn't slowed the cancer at all. If anything, my condition had deteriorated. Dr. Chen recommended stopping treatment and moving to palliative care. Comfort measures, pain management, quality of life rather than quantity. I agreed. I was done being sick as a side effect of trying not to die. I'd rather be healthy for less time than sick for slightly more time. I called my family that night to tell them the chemo wasn't working and I was stopping treatment. What does that mean? Emma asked. How long do you have? Maybe 6 weeks. Maybe less. Maybe a little more. It's hard to say exactly. You're not going to die, she said, as if insistence could change medical reality. Emma, I am going to die. That's what this means. I'm going to die, and it's going to be sooner rather than later. Don't say that. You're scaring me. I wasn't trying to scare her. I was trying to give her truth. But I understood that truth was less comfortable than hope, and everyone prefers comfort. I didn't ask for anyone to come visit. I figured if they wanted to, they would. And if they didn't, well, that would be its own kind of answer, wouldn't it? The first week after stopping treatment, I got healthier. Without the chemotherapy destroying my body, I had energy. I could eat. The nausea subsided. For about 7 days I felt like myself again. Just a myself that was dying, one that could plan for that ending. Sarah came over and we went through old photo albums. We talked about memories. She told me stories about her childhood that I'd forgotten. Small moments that had seemed insignificant at the time, but that she'd carried with her. It was beautiful and sad, and exactly what I needed. Karen and I took a trip to the coast just for a day. We sat on the beach and didn't talk much. We just held hands and watched the waves and let the time pass. Emma called from Boston and we talked. For hours. Not about the cancer, but about her kids, her marriage, her work, the garden she was planning for spring. We laughed. We talked about memories from when she was small. We said things that mattered. Marcus called and asked if I needed anything. I said I didn't, and he sounded relieved. He said his work was really picking up, but he'd try to visit before the holidays. I told him not to worry about it. He said he would try anyway. We both knew he wouldn't. My mother came for a day and we sat in the kitchen where she'd taught me to cook, where I'd taught my children to cook, the spatial center of family rituals and normalcy, and we just existed together. She cried some. I held her hand. At one point she said, I'm supposed to die first, Thomas. That's how it's supposed to go. I know, Mom. I don't know how to do this. How to lose you. The same way I have to do it, I think. Just one moment at a time. Just showing up for each other while we can. She nodded and squeezed my hand. By the second week, I was starting to decline again. Not from the chemo, but from the cancer itself. The tumors were growing and they were pressing on my organs. My appetite disappeared again. The pain started, sharp and insistent. Something my palliative care doctor managed with increasingly large doses of morphine. I spent more time in bed. The energy I'd had evaporated. I moved from the bedroom to the living room and back. Karen moved a hospital bed into the living room so I could still see the outside, still feel part of the house. This is when I did something I'm not proud of. This is when I lied to my family. I called them all. Emma, Marcus, Sarah, David, Patricia, my cousins, my mother, and I told them I'd taken a turn for the worse. I told them I was in the hospital. I gave them a fake hospital name and room number. I told them I didn't have much time, maybe days. I don't know exactly why I did it. Anger maybe, desperation, a need to see who would actually show up when the moment came. Or maybe I was testing a hypothesis I already knew the answer to. The hospital room I was actually in was my own living room, but no one knew that. I gave them the fake information on a Friday night. I said I was at Riverside Medical, room 432, and I wanted to see them all before the end. I said I loved them and I wanted to say goodbye properly. Then I waited. Sarah showed up at our house within 20 minutes. She'd been there when I made the calls. She'd listened to me give false information to Emma and Marcus and David and Patricia, and she'd understood immediately what I was doing. She'd even played along, acting as my intermediary, calling around to try to get visiting hours expanded at the fake hospital, making arrangements that could never be made. No one else came. I waited all night. Karen sat with me, her face showing a mixture of understanding and sadness. She didn't judge me for the deception. She'd watched me slowly realize that the family I thought I had was more theoretical than actual. By Saturday morning, I knew no one was coming. Emma had called Sarah to say she couldn't get time off work, but she was booking a flight for Monday. Marcus had said he'd try to come next week. His schedule was just really busy right now. David had offered to visit next weekend. Patricia had sent her love and said she was praying for me. My cousins had sent cards and flowers. My mother had cried and said she'd tried to drive up, but her arthritis had been so bad. No one came immediately. No one came thinking I only had days to live, except Sarah, my youngest child, the one who'd bought a house that fell through and was dealing with her own disappointment and grief. Sarah showed up within 20 minutes, because she understood what mattered, what actually mattered. When I finally revealed the deception to the rest of my family, when I called them back and explained that I'd given them false hospital information as a test, the reaction was mixed. Emma felt guilty and angry. She said I'd manipulated them, that I was being unfair, that they all loved me but they had lives and obligations that they couldn't just abandon. Marcus was hurt that I'd think they wouldn't come, even as he acknowledged that he wouldn't have come, not immediately anyway. David was defensive. He said he would have come eventually, that I was being melodramatic. Patricia was quiet. She didn't defend herself. She just asked, "Why did you do that?" "Because I needed to know," I said. "I needed to know who actually saw me versus who saw me as a responsibility." "And what did you find out?" "I found out that Sarah sees me. And Karen has been here the whole time. And everyone else sees me through the filter of their own lives, which is fair, it's human. But I needed to know the difference." That conversation was the last real conversation I had with most of my family. Emma apologized, but there was a brittleness to it, as if she was apologizing because she thought she should, not because she understood why the apology mattered. Marcus sent more encouraging text messages but didn't show his face. David made plans to visit that he had to cancel. Patricia sent expensive gift baskets filled with organic food I was too sick to eat. My mother was different. When I explained what I'd done, there was a long silence on the phone. "I would have come," she finally said. "If I'd been able. If my body had been able to take the drive." "I know, Mom. This wasn't a test for you." "Then why did you do it at all?" "Because I needed to understand something before I died. I needed to know if I was going to be missed, or if I was going to disappear and everyone would just readjust their lives and move on. Thomas, people move on. That's life. That's what happens. But that doesn't mean you don't matter. Does it mean I matter? Or does it mean I mattered?" She cried. I cried. But we didn't resolve the question. Sarah, meanwhile, moved into our house. She took a leave from her job. She was there every morning and every evening. She helped Karen with the physical care I was beginning to need, helping me bathe, managing my medications, adjusting the morphine when the pain got bad. "You don't have to do this," I told her one afternoon. "You should be back in the city dealing with your house situation." "Dad, I'm exactly where I need to be." "Why?" "I'm not going to recover. There's nothing you can do except watch me decline." "I know, and I'm choosing to do that anyway. Because you're my dad and I love you and I want to be here at the end," I cried then. Not from pain, but from the revelation that one person understood the math of love in a way the others didn't. That showing up for something terrible was the highest expression of caring. That presence, just presence, without expectation of gratification or fix or resolution, was what actually mattered. I died on a Sunday morning in December, 52 days after stopping chemotherapy. Karen was on one side of the bed, Sarah on the other. The house was quiet. Outside, it was raining. At my funeral, everyone came. Emma gave a eulogy. Marcus spoke about our relationship. Patricia organized the reception. David helped coordinate logistics. My cousins showed up. My extended family packed the church. People who I'd worked with, neighbors, friends, they all came to mark my passing. But during my actual dying, during the part that actually mattered, when I needed someone to sit with me while I stopped being, there was only Sarah. Only her. Only the one person who understood that love isn't about grand gestures or saying the right things. It's about showing up, It's about presence. It's about choosing someone when it's hard, and there's nothing to gain. If I had it to do again, I wouldn't test my family with a lie. That was cruel and unnecessary, and it hurt people I loved. But the truth, the test revealed, the understanding that Sarah had about what matters and what doesn't, that was important. That was real. I announced I was dying to see who would visit. The hospital room stayed empty except for one person. And she showed me everything I needed to know about love, about family, about what actually matters when everything else falls away. Her name was Sarah. She was my youngest daughter, and she was the only family I had. If you're watching this and you haven't liked, commented, or subscribed yet, please do. Because this story is about recognizing the Sarahs in your life. The ones who show up not because they have to, but because they choose to. The ones who understand that presence is love. In a world full of people, make sure the people you spend time with are people who choose you. Subscribe for more stories about family, about truth, about what actually matters. Thank you for watching.